That's right, another day, and we have got a preseason game to break down as the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, fueled by Gatorade, continues. I'm Fran Duffy, and I think we've got a great show for you here on episode number 197. At the top of this week's show, we've got Chalk Talk, where I joined Ben Fennell and Chris McPherson to break down what we saw not only here today at the NovaCare Complex for Saturday practice at training camp, but also the preseason opener against the Tennessee Titans. A lot to unfold here in today's episode. Let's get to it now in Chalk Talk.
Let's get down to business. It's time for Chalk Talk.
All right, guys. Well, like I said, a lot to unpack here from the last few days here at the NovaCare Complex. I'm thinking we'll start with practice today since it's what is most recent, but I want to hit on the game as well. Obviously, the Eagles losing the preseason opener to Tennessee. The win-loss doesn't really matter, but really just about what we saw from the game. So, C-Mac, I'll go to you. Just takeaways walking off the field for practice this morning.
Practice today. First and foremost, great to see guys like Barnett.
Yep.
And Ronald Darby back on the field. Darby participating in 7-on-7 drills. Barnett doing a little bit more. So from an injury standpoint, those guys, because you look at the game the other night, you basically had almost like a Pro Bowl roster. You know, of guys who didn't play in the game. Some just held out, some due to injuries. But you're starting to get these guys back and healthy because, again, September 8th is the key to make sure the guys are ready for that date. So getting those guys back on the field, especially where you already have some competitive roster battles going on. Cornerback's been very good with Rasul Douglas, Avonte Max, and Sidney Jones out there being the starters. Defensive end, very good. We saw great things from Josh Sweat and Deshaun Hall the other night, and Sharif Miller even. So it's great to see that you're adding more to the mix there. The other player who made some plays the other night and continued that, which is what you want to see, and that's J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. It seemed like every period, whether it was 7-on-7 team, he was making a big catch, showing great route running, coming up with plays along the sidelines, becoming a quarterback's great friend by showing a nice catch radius. So consistently making plays through practice, because that's the biggest thing is now you want to see these guys who we're getting just accustomed to the NFL a couple weeks ago. Training camp, the routine. They now got a game under their belt. They know what training camp is like. They know what to expect, and they're going out there and just continually making plays on a daily basis. So first and foremost, seeing some of those injured guys come back, and then guys like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside continue strong practices, strong performances from Thursday night's game.
Yeah, I know you were pretty impressed with what you saw from JJ as well. C-Mac's right. It did seem like every period JJ would come up with a nice play, whether it was over the middle of the field or along the sideline.
Yeah, a lot of plays working the sideline, good awareness and coverage, zone coverages, able to make the tiptoe grabs, good hands. Like you were saying, quarterback's best friend. He's kind of that player that can win down the field, outside of the numbers, over the middle of the field, can do a lot of different things. And I think he's in a great situation that there isn't tons of pressure for him to be a major contributor, but I think he has a skill set to definitely work in.
Yeah, early on, that first period, the offense just wasn't in sync, right? You had a false start, you had some incompletions. It was a completion to JJ along the sideline that really kind of got things going, and then they came back. The ones came back out, and Carson Wentz completed the last two passes. I think it was to Zach Ertz and to JJ to close out the period. But seemed to be a little bit of a spark plug, and even he caught a couple passes from Cody Kessler today that were really impressive. Ben, I know that we saw a couple of throws from Kessler today that were pretty impressive. Seemed to get over the underneath defender and underneath the safety, finding good touch in the soft areas of the zone.
I felt like he had one of the throws of the day towards the end of practice there to J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Was an opposite hash deep corner route where he really had to step up and put that thing on a rope right over JJ's outside shoulder along the sideline there to end one of the practice sessions, and thought that was kind of one of the highlight throws. And there was a lot of number 2 out there, a lot of Cody Kessler, obviously a little bit more with Sudfeld out for a couple weeks. So thought he put together a lot of nice things. I think if you protect him and guys are getting open, he can make all the throws. He could put the ball where it needs to be. You just obviously need to be on the same page with the receivers, and he's starting to work with some maybe receivers and options he hasn't been accustomed to working with. So just working out the chemistry and some of those kinks early on in practice, a little bit clunky, some busted plays, some snap count miscommunications. But I think as practice went on, they definitely cleaned it up.
The other catch that I really liked from JJ was in that 7-on-7 period. The first play matched up against Ronald Darby. It was Darby's first team action of the summer, and he just worked down the sideline. It was a great catch. Kind of pirouetting right along the sideline, got both feet in bounds.
He
really
seems to have a
nice
savviness in knowing where to throttle down in holes and where to kind of give his quarterback the best possible target target to place a ball in.
Well, I asked Darby about that play. I'm like, it's your first play. You've been waiting all summer to get out there. You're getting 7-on-7, and the first play is this beautiful catch along the sidelines where you're like, come on, is this what I'm coming back to? And he was like, they made a nice throw and catch. Like, we were in cover 2. It was a good throw along the sideline.
Yep.
I'm working my way back. That's the biggest thing with Darby is like, he's like, look, I'm not all the way back yet. I'm still getting adjusted to it. He was out there with the brace today. You got to learn how to play without that at some point. So it's the next step. He's getting closer and closer to full return, just like we've seen from Rodney McLeod over the last couple of weeks where he would get on the field in 7-on-7s. Now he gets in some team periods as well. So you just like to see that continuation, that progress as we work toward week 1.
Yeah, Rodney, I really think is starting to get back into his own, self. And I see some flashes of him in practice where you really start to see those instincts, the foot speed flashing when he sees it, and those kind of robber rolls where he comes down or flashes out to the perimeter. I just think he's really starting to get back up to top speed.
Darby, clearly a listener of the podcast, not overreacting to one play. So I will give him a head nod.
Speaking of overreaction, I mean, the whole backup quarterback discussion.
Yeah, I mean, it's silly.
I understand it's the news,
Right.
okay? And it was disappointing to see Sudfeld go down. It's great that it's his non-throwing hand, and he spoke afterwards, and he's like, look, I'm going to be sidelined. It could have been a lot worse. He's never broken a bone before, but, he'll be back sooner than later.
Have you guys broken bones? You ever broken a bone?
Yeah.
No, I had a fracture, which I guess is a slight
That's a
break
break.
of
my elbow, but
Really?
didn't require surgery. Yeah.
Ring finger, playing basketball.
Yeah, fingers and toes. That's all I got.
Yeah, so nothing
So
too
he's never
exciting.
broken a bone. All right, so Nate, sorry.
But the thing is, I hope we don't see him unless it's,
Right.
at the end of a 44-6 blowout over the Cowboys or week 17 when, the division and the bye's already clinched. It's like, come on. It's like, okay, he's probably going to be back at some point in the first half of the season. All right. Well, Cody Kessler's played and won games in National Football League.
Oh, I think that it speaks to the roster that this team has built, right? When you talk about Howie Roseman and the scouting staff, the front office, what they've done, all the issues that there's not a lot to freak out about right now.
No.
We're a fourth defensive end goes down, and Joe Osman, a backup quarterback goes
True.
down, and it's like we got to light the fires, get the pitchforks out, we're ready to go. We're freaking out, but I think that speaks to the talent of this roster and really the construction of it, because there's not a lot really that you're worried about.
Which is
going
good.
in.
There's no drama.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing is that, the chemistry has been great. The injuries, not been too many so far in camp. This is ideally what you want. You want to get to the point where, you're debating the 5th or 6th defensive end and the 5th, 6th wide receiver, but really starting to, I feel like more and more as the years go on, you're getting to the regular season preparation earlier and earlier, where you're like making that turn where it's like, all right, we're kind of getting out of training camp mode. It's now let's start keeping the regular season in mind in terms of preparation and the players' practice schedules and how many reps they're getting during the course of these preseason games.
I just feel like the preseason, the injuries, the backup situations are polarizing debates and conversations because they're deep philosophical decisions. There's no true right way and there's no true wrong way. So when you have an injury to your backup and you start to see that quarterback room maybe getting a little bit lighter, what's your philosophical approach? We need to get these guys experience, but it's also at the expense of preservation. So how much do you need them to get acclimated with the offense, the people they're going to be playing with, getting them up to speed on the offense, while also saying, he's valuable, we need to make sure he's ready and available if we need him, kind of thing. And it's also the philosophical approach. We can't be preparing for the worst case scenarios all the time. We can't say, hey, if this guy goes down or that guy goes down, what do we do?
Right.
Every team is in a bad situation if their stars go down. Now, we've dealt with it before. This team and this organization has built their roster to handle these injuries, and that, bolstering the depth is ultimately what wins in the NFL. But why this is such a polarizing conversation is because you can make a good case for A decision and a good case for B decision, and that's why it makes for a good, good discussion.
All right, well, let's get to what we saw today. I would say a couple big plays on defense, a couple big interceptions that stood out to me. First, I believe it was the second play of the day. Nate Gary blitzing off the edge. Carson Wentz attempted a screen to the outside or a quick throw to the outside. Nate was right in the throwing lane and picked it off. It was a bang play. Impressive hands from the former college safety. 12 picks in his career.
I was going to say, you got to bring up the safety part when you talk about that play.
Well, and he had great ball. I mean, that was one of the things I liked about Nate. It's actually why I still evaluated him as a safety coming out because he played the ball really well in the air. Like, he had really good coverage instincts. So, for him to make that play, I thought was really impressive. Took it to the house, got the defense juiced up. And then 7-on-7, I also believe that was the second play of the 7-on-7 drill. Malcolm Jenkins, a diving interception down the field.
Nice play by both of them there. And, with Gary, he was the starting Mike in the game on Thursday night. Ken Flagel talked with reporters on Friday and said, there are some good things to take away, some not so good things. He said that whole linebacker room is a work in progress. And again, you talk about the injuries and guys working their way back. There's been no Nigel Bradham. Kamu Grugier-Hill is sidelined with the knee injury, and he was actually off crutches today, walking along the sideline with a brace. So that was encouraging to see. But nonetheless, at this point, you're trying to mix and match the guys to develop chemistry, to try to figure out what those potential roles could be down the line. So it's part of it is you want to see from a mental standpoint, especially with that Mike position, because you're making the calls. And Ken Flagel said that Gary was outstanding, and that's never been an issue with him. Now it's just making sure that you get to the ball, you have the right run fits, and that you're making a play once you get there.
I wonder how much teams are practicing and preparing for defensive communications. Can they rotate around the quarterback of the defense helmet in practices, whether it's the third team, the fourth team? And obviously there's usually only one green dot helmet for the quarterback and one for the middle linebacker or whoever calls the defense. But now that Kamu's gone down and you have third, fourth stringers calling the defense, how much is that a factor in practice? Obviously not a question for you guys, just a general question maybe for Flagel if you ever got time. But how much can you practice the communication calls with different players in practice? It's kind of an interesting thought.
Any other thoughts before we move on to what we saw Thursday night? I mean, I watched the one-on-ones with the offensive line, defensive line. A couple guys that stood. I thought Halapulavati Vaitai had a couple of really nice reps at both guard spots, which was interesting because we saw him working. Actually, we saw a good amount of cross-training in that drill. We saw Andre Dillard get reps at left tackle and right tackle. Derek Barnett reps at left end and right end. More Matt Pryor at left tackle. Big V, like I said, got reps on both sides. So it was fun to see those guys kind of get cross-trained a little bit.
Yeah, my one big takeaway is Derek Barnett just stands out on the practice field. He has a very natural flow and hustle to the ball. In almost every drill, every session, he just has a natural way of finishing every rep.
It's one speed. He's always going 100.
No question. Yeah. And you always see him, whether it's 10, 15 yards downfield after a run or making sure to follow the ball that went to the opposite side of the field. And we've seen what he does on the field. Half his plays are built off of hustle and just flowing to the ball, playing with effort. And that's where a lot of plays in the NFL are made, through effort and hustle and just playing to the ball. And you never know when that ball carrier might break a tackle and gives you an opportunity to poke out a fumble or make a play down the field. I just think you see that kind of built into his football DNA, even in kind of half-speed walk-through sessions. He's flowing to the ball carrier, and I just love to see that.
It was fun because I wasn't really expecting him to, it was kind of, not that we would get a tip on that beforehand, but we're watching and we're like, first team drills, like, who's the defensive end in pants? And I'm like, that's got to be Derek Barnett. Like, Derek Barnett and Matt Collins are the only two guys that wear pants out of the practice field or long sleeves. So I see Derek Barnett out there. I'm like, oh, all right, let's get going. And you're exactly right. Like he moves at one speed constantly.
His mannerisms just stand out,
yes.
And you just notice it's Barnett right away.
Anything C-Mac to close out?
Sharif Miller had a ball batted down at the line of scrimmage during the goal line drill. It was good to see because he had some rookie moments, some good things and some not so good things from the game the other night, which I thought was good, what you want to see from him.
You were watching, Ben, right after that play, after the pass breakup, because you were like, all right, let's see how he does after this play.
He had a big play and then got planted on it, and it looked like he got up a little bit frustrated, had a tight end over him on the next play, and absolutely blasted Will Tye into the backfield to get a little bit of revenge.
Well, that's because he jumped up to deflect the pass, and Andre Dillard, when he had him up in the air, threw him down.
Just like you're
taught
as tackles,
right,
you get them off their feet, you typically give them a paw and try to knock them down, and he got the pass and also got knocked down. So next play, he came back with a little something extra for the tight end there. And
some good things from Deshaun Jackson in practice.
Sure.
You see him working on a jet sweep down in the red zone. He had a beautiful catch and grab, diving at the goal line, and John Ferrari from Football Operations running over, signaling the touchdown.
Yeah, it was a great play. Fans love that.
Yeah, absolutely great to see from him. And then after practice, he and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside were working together for probably close to a half an hour. I feel like most of the players had cleared.
What are they doing?
Coach Peterson, what's that?
What are they doing?
Route concepts, just working on little intricacies of the game. Deshaun, actually, Carson Walsh, the wide receivers coach, said on Friday that in the last couple of weeks, Deshaun taking a much more vocal leadership role in that room. And he's been trying to teach things. If he sees something on film, he'll be the first person to point something out that something's not right, or you could do it a different way. And the players, the younger guys at this point have grown up watching Deshaun.
Right.
So they're like, all right, this is the guy who we idolize and love watching make dynamic plays for the Eagles back in the day. It's like, if he says to do this and he's made in the league for 12 years, then I'm going to do what he says. So, but it's great to see him imparting that wisdom. It's definitely a much more mature Deshaun Jackson than we're seeing from his first iteration here in Philadelphia. And, Carson Walsh was also asked just about, well, you have one ball and you have all these talented guys who have made big plays and put big numbers in their career. And Carson Walsh, they want to win. It's about legacy building at this point. They're trying to get wins, get Super Bowls. They've done the individual stuff. It's now trying to stack, the things that matter, the rings.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, one last thing, just while watching practices, you kind of take this for granted. For about half the team, they're in the thick of it now. They're in the grind.
Yep.
They just played 50, 60 snaps 2 days ago. They had treatment yesterday. They had film sessions. They're almost in that kind of routine of an NFL season. And for some of these guys that may be on the practice squad, maybe won't be NFL players in a couple weeks, this is kind of their time to show their day-to-day work ethic, how you can recover after having played considerable amount, how well you practice after maybe being a little dinged up or injured, or how well you are in the film room and correcting your mistakes. So for guys like Jordan Mailata, who played a lot of snaps the other night, right out here in practice, once again playing all over the offensive line, it's just something to keep in mind when watching these guys. It's hot out there. You have to keep in mind, some of them just played a game 2 days ago, and you forget that, hey, they're in a full routine of an NFL player right now.
Well, speaking of the routine, it was good to get back into the saddle of doing the post-game Eagle Eye in the Sky articles.
Yep.
So Ben and I put those together yesterday. Ben obviously doing all the artwork, all the doodles, as we like to refer to them, the telestrations on those plays. So that you can check out that article I wrote about the young defensive linemen. So Josh Sweat and Deshaun Hall and Trayvon Hester, Sharif Miller, that whole group, and what they did on Thursday night. That is up now on PhiladelphiaEagles.com and the Eagles mobile app.
A little different approach for the column this year.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit shorter, so more digestible pieces. So it'll be a little bit shorter to get through, but there'll be more pieces throughout the course of the week. So
I also feel like the tone of the team and the roster in the preseason makes for kind of different tones of the articles.
Yeah, right.
And the way we're projecting, there aren't as many young people that say, how does this guy look? He's going to have a major role this year. Really aren't those guys. So it's just kind of projecting, who may be that journeyman third stringer that has a spot on the team, and maybe a guy that will fit on the practice squad. What did he show us?
Yep.
And you can kind of pick and choose your film battles in the preseason.
Well, let's talk more about the game before we get into it. Just a quick reminder, best way to support the show. And we appreciate everybody that promotes it on social media, give us the likes and the retweets and everything like that. But the best way, go on wherever you listen to podcasts, namely Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. Give us a rating, give us a comment, leave a question on there. We'll answer it here on the show. But that is the number one way as we're getting closer and closer to the start of the regular season, and fans like you are looking for more content like this. That helps boost us up the rankings, make us more visible to those people. So anything you can do to give us those ratings, those comments, really appreciate it. I wanted to give a shout out to Iowa Johnson and Greensboro for both going on, leaving 5-star ratings and saying how much they're enjoying the show on a daily basis. Really appreciate both of you guys out there. All right, let's get into the game. So we talked a little bit about some of the things we saw. I guess I'll just start things off with a little bit, because I want you to go and read the article, a little bit of what I saw from those young defensive linemen. I think with Josh Sweat, look, we saw another stage in the development, right? And one of the things that I was just telling C-Mac this morning, I wish I did a better job of showing some of the examples of Josh stringing multiple pass rush moves together, because that was something I didn't quite show in the article, but you saw examples of him trying to just continuing to put it together. That was one of the big questions I had with him coming out of Florida State was, look, he can defend the run. He's a big, strong kid. He looks the part. He can defend the run. He plays with a high motor. He tested off the charts, so the athletic potential was there. Just continue to put it together as a pass rusher, because there were just flashes of that at Florida State. And I love the fact that the steps that he's taken really over the last calendar year to improve his craft in that area.
Yeah, but on the converse of that, you want to string multiple moves together when you need multiple moves.
That's what I mean. Yes,
so when his
correct.
primary move, like that long arm, is winning first and foremost, he doesn't need to go long arm over move, spin back inside. So it's nice that, yes, he did have some moves that he strung together, but his most successful rushes were on his primary move, and he got home. So I felt like it was worthy to highlight those plays.
I had a lot of people hitting me up on Twitter during the game saying, "Oh, he's not getting any push. He's going against backups." He's going up against a 3-time Pro Bowl left tackle in Taylor Lewan. He was working with the second team with Tennessee because he's going to be suspended for the first 4 weeks. They want Dennis Kelly to work with the starters. So there's continuity there. So Taylor Lewan getting the backup. So it was good to see Josh Sweat getting matched up against a top-tier talent.
It's funny that he has the perception of being this elite pass rusher because of the athleticism and the profile and the body type.
5-star recruit, number one in the country.
But you
coming out of high
mentioned
school.
that it's like, first and foremost, his bread and butter he's been a good run defender.
Really good run defender.
And that'll get him on the field. And again, we're not looking, fans were excited to see him and, they heard about the great things he's been doing during camp. But it's like, again, at the end of the day, now you got Barnett coming back to the mix. You got BG, you got Vinny Curry. He's going to be your fourth and at best, most likely. You only need 10 snaps. I mean, if you look at the snaps, I was charting this not too long ago that in the playoffs, the Eagles just went with 3 defensive ends.
Yeah.
All right? They didn't even have a fourth defensive end. Deshaun Hall wasn't getting reps, in those playoff games.
And keep in mind, too, that those extra defensive end snaps, a lot of that was spent in nickel where one would slide inside. And now with Malik Jackson in the fold, you may not need that extra defensive end in those packages to come in. So, Malik Jackson's going to take some snaps from those defensive ends. And that's the thing, is just we're excited about a lot of these young guys. But to me, we've talked about this, and Ben, you and I have talked about it too. It's like, all right, like with young players, especially the guys that aren't first and second round picks, like let those guys develop. Give them time to work into it. Even the first and second round picks, a lot of the times they need time. Not everybody's going to be an Avonte Maddox that could step right in and play 3 different positions in 8 games and be a good player for you. Dallas Goedert in year 2 as an All-Pro talent, like it's hard to find those guys. So everybody else, you gotta let them develop. Be a little bit patient. They're not going to be all pros out of the box.
No, they're not.
And we also don't always know what they're going through in the film room with technique. You could be the 2nd overall pick, but if you're a 2-point stance tackle and you come to the NFL and they want you to be a 3-point stance tackle, there's a learning curve. There's a developmental curve as well. So we don't always know what they're working on or what the subtle changes they had to make in their game that could be affecting their play, and just take some time to get comfortable.
You were very excited about what we saw from the first couple series with Dallas Goedert in this game. Kind of painted a nice picture of what he is as a player.
I wasn't sure we were going to transit. You mentioned Dallas Goedert, and I'm like, that's like one of the other big highlights. I didn't know if we were sticking defense and then transitioning.
No, we're just bouncing around.
Yeah, it was nice to see Goedert kind of pick
goes.
up right where he left off last season. I saw him win against zone coverage. I saw him win against man coverage, whether that was a linebacker, whether that was a safety, and once again, good effort, intensity, and finish in the run game blocking. So kind of the full package, picking up right off his rookie season that we were very impressed with. So I expect very, very big things from Dallas Goedert in 2019.
What's interesting is he said after the game that typically he's not defended by a linebacker. So it was sort of an adjustment period for him. Obviously you're going against another team, but different ways that teams are going to challenge that 12 personnel this season. And it was good to see the Eagles mixing in 11 and 12 throughout. It would be in the middle of a series, and you would go one play with one formation, one with the other. And it goes back to, we've had this conversation multiple times, how much 12 personnel are the Eagles going to play? Or is it a situation with these 2 talented tight ends, you can ease the workload of Zach Ertz and just do more 11 with Dallas Goedert on the field? Even though, I forget who said this, that when the Eagles play 12 personnel with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, it's almost like a glorified 11 personnel just because of the pass-catching abilities that they bring to the table.
Well, and that's what I think the Eagles would hope that some teams, if some teams may walk in and say, we're treating this like 11 and we're going to play nickel. Okay. That's let's get Jordan Howard running. Let's get Miles Sanders running downhill and see if your nickel corner can tackle.
Defenses are going to have to make some business decisions with defending the Eagles and how you classify certain weapons. And when you have the J.J. Arcega-Whitesides of the world and multiple tight ends and big backs, and it could be a spread down the field offense until it's not. Until if it's a 13 personnel and you have a between the tackles downhill bowling ball like Jordan Howard, and suddenly you're getting power football down the field, and it's just great to have multiple identities throughout the offense.
It's great that you mentioned Jordan Howard, because a lot of people, I feel, are saying Miles Sanders has looked so great, and he's flashed.
No question.
Been very impressive in practice. Don't get me wrong. But it makes it seem like Jordan Howard's off to the wayside. They're going by the reps from the game the other night. Oh, Jordan Howard got more of a workload than Miles Sanders. Does that mean that?
What does that mean? Yeah, right.
Does that mean Miles Sanders is already really the primary back? No, there's such a role for Jordan Howard in this offense, a perfect role. You talked about what kind of mentality, what kind of identity this team is going to be. you can have multiple ones because you have such diverse personnel and talented personnel. So, look, I hope Miles Sanders blows up and fulfills the promise that we've seen early in training camp. But at the same time, for this offense to be, I'm almost going back to 2017 here, where you had each back kind of had like a defined role. I look at Jordan Howard as like a LeGarrette Blount type, where
100%,
and you just did not have that in the offense, and you needed it at times in the offense last year. So I feel that there's some people I feel like they're starting to dismiss Jordan Howard. Not the case whatsoever.
And whether it's red zone, short yardage, or just the fourth quarter. Just running against defenses and wanting to tackle these big 225, 230 running backs in the fourth quarter, man, that's a grind. There's no stat for it. There's no metric to measure how much the defense wants it or not. It's just a load to tackle throughout the game. And if we have a lead in the fourth quarter and we're pounding these big backs, it's not easy to keep bringing these guys down. And we saw, in late games in 2017, whether it was that Chargers game,
great point.
With Blount running free in the fourth quarter, just you stay committed to it. It's tough for defenses.
All right, well, let's get to some of the other things, some of the other takeaways from Thursday night. Offensive line obviously was a big topic of discussion coming out of the game. You have Andre Dillard, his first NFL action. Jordan Mailata, his first action since a year ago last summer. Matt Pryor, how's he going to look? So just overall thoughts, I guess, on that group, and really if there are any other guys on that offensive line that caught your eye.
Yeah, I really thought Andre Dillard put together some good reps there, and he played 40 or 50 snaps there at left tackle. Once again, just balanced, smooth mover in pass protection. Thought he looked pretty well out there at left tackle. Again, Mailata, I think he played the most snaps on offense over there at right tackle. Again, very impressive stuff he put out on tape for having only played football for his second season and playing against some pretty good competition. I know he played, I'm not sure who they had up left defensive end of the Titans the other night.
Sharif Finch was playing.
That's right.
Finch was playing a little bit there. They were moving some guys around. I thought both guys put some good stuff out on tape. Dillard, to me, like we know about his feet, his hands were really good.
And how immediately he replaces his hands when he gets them knocked down, and how quickly he gets them right back inside. That's just absolute offensive line porn. And I know Jeff Stoutland's very impressed with his feet and his hand usage.
We'll be getting into that in an Eagle Eye in the Sky article for Monday. Keep an eye out.
See, nice little tease right there. Matt Pryor. Okay, I feel like there was one video clip that went around on Twitter.
It's that time of year, yeah.
That shows, but it's good. Like you put out the thing of Keyshawn Johnson in Arizona.
Right, yes.
That blew up, and he showed the beautiful route that he ran. And you were a big fan of his, down at the Senior Bowl and Shrine game, and it's it's paying off now for the Cardinals. But like Matt Pryor, you put a bad clip out there, and it's like, oh, is this guy even going to make the team?
Right.
Matt Pryor's playing
four positions,
every position but center.
Yep.
Okay, he's showing the versatility that he can bring to this team. Jeff Stoutland was very pleased with his hand usage. We've talked about the strength he has in his hands, but it's so difficult in the middle of a game that you get your footwork set to play left side of the line. Now I got to go to the right side of the line. Or if I'm playing guard, then it's like guys are going to be coming at me much quicker than if I'm playing outside a tackle. It's such a different mindset to play all these different positions, and it's showing the value that hopefully he can bring to the team if he makes it to the final 53, because you need guys throughout the course of the season who can, hey, if he's active on game day, we may need a tackle. We may need you to come and play guard. You need guys who are able to do that.
One thing that I just want to throw in real quickly, we've talked a lot about, the very first episode we did this in the train with the driving range, right? So you never know what teams are working through,
Exactly.
what players are going through. With preseason games, and I'm going to say one play or another, but with preseason games, a lot of teams around the league. Ben and I were watching some teams from just around the NFL yesterday, and we're looking at it and we're like, what is the offense doing here? So often teams are going to call a play, and the quarterback's not audibling. They're not checking out of anything. They're not flipping the play. If the defense lines up in a way where it's like, man, this is really a bad look to run this play into, they're still going to run it because the coaches either A, don't want to give away anything from an audible standpoint, they don't want to have the quarterback do anything, or B, they want to see how these guys react to it. It's going to be a bad look. All right, what's the running back going to do? What's the pulling guard going to do when he's faced with two defenders at a hole, or this guy comes free? What is he going to do? How is he going to react? Defensively, same deal. Hey, it's a cover two corner, and they've got three receivers over to that side. How is he going to react? To me, like that's part of it, and that's why you can't completely judge everything you see training camp and preseason.
Yeah, preseason you're going to see some of the more vanilla philosophies and concepts. Just by default, you don't want to show your whole playbook and all the exotic stuff. But conversely, it's some of the toughest tape to analyze because there's so many missed assignments, confusions, busted assignments, wrong routes, that you have to kind of like watch it with a side eye and try to figure out what were they supposed to do. And in defense on certain plays, like that Matt Pryor clip going around Twitter, that was a busted blocking assignment. There was 2 linebackers in the hole, and his eyes kind of went back and forth on who to block, and next thing you know, a backer came downhill and blasted him. So there's a lot
where
of
there shouldn't have been 2 linebackers in the hole.
No
That's
question.
what you're saying. Somebody
the whole
else
play was
supposed to
busted.
pick him up.
Somebody else messed it up. He had 2 guys. His eyes went in the wrong place. A linebacker was aggressive, and he's the fool on social media. But there's those types of instances all the time, whether it's running backs going the wrong way, guys running the wrong route. It's a lot of fun because you see literally everything you could possibly want to see on a football field in preseason.
What was the one that you posted yesterday from Green Bay?
I think it was a running back and a right tackle, like literally thinking they had the right guys, and they each switched at the same time, and they blocked nobody. It's also funny, you get some instances, I mean, Ryan Bates played left tackle all camp, and suddenly you see him at right tackle in the game, and a guy's shoe falls off, and suddenly they're yelling at someone to go into a position he's never played before. Yep. It's like you practice, and then the game hits, and then there's bullets flying, and things happen, and coaches are cursing, and a guy's hurt, and it's get in there, I don't care who you are, and sometimes it looks that way on tape. It's a bit of a fire drill at times.
No question. Some veterans, I thought, the new guys, I thought were kind of flashed a little bit, and this will be an article for this weekend. But one guy, LJ Fort, I thought flashed in the game on Thursday. Made some plays. There were a couple really nice plays defeating blocks downhill. One play he made along the sideline I thought was impressive. That was good to see because of all the linebackers, honestly, that played, I thought he was the guy, and he played a lot of snaps, but he was the guy that flashed most to me on Thursday night.
Also showed some things in coverage as well.
Notable, he had a sack today on a blitz in practice as well.
So he's a guy that, career underdog. I think going back, his first NFL game was against the Eagles.
Cleveland Browns,
in 2012, I believe.
Yep.
I mean, that shows you how long he's been surviving and making it in the league, but it wasn't until this past season, 2018, with Pittsburgh, where he finally got on the field for meaningful snaps on defense.
It's been 7 years. I think he's been cut or released, 14 times?
It's something ridiculous like that. So, but seeing a guy who's been through the fire, has experienced the ups and downs of this league, he knows what it's like to play in the preseason.
Yeah.
Okay, he knows that this is his best opportunity. He was signed here to hopefully, contend for a spot on defense, if not be a valuable core player on special teams. And he put out a pretty good showing.
It's those bodies that make up the bottom of the Eagles roster, and it's so fun to see in a preseason game when other teams are going to play, are going to have the rookies and the undrafted free agents and some wide-eyed players out there. It's the second half, and we have Orlando Scandrick out there, a 10-year veteran, LJ Forts of the world, Zach Browns of the world, CFL players, professionals that have been playing the game for 3, 4, 5+ years, playing in the second half of a preseason game.
Yep.
This is just the makeup of our roster, whether it's the Trevon Hesters and Bruce Hectors of the world. You don't really have a lot of those rookies to evaluate. Some on the offensive line, Sharif Miller here and there. There are some guys, but collectively, the bottom of the roster are pretty established veteran presences.
I mean, look what the Eagles did on today is Saturday.
Today's
what
Saturday.
they did on Friday, trading for Eli Harold. I mean, a guy that was a former 3rd-round pick, right, by the 49ers. Had a couple sacks last year for Detroit. He's been around the league and is an established, veteran in the NFL. To come in and compete and bring the most out of the rest of that young defensive line. We'll see what he's got.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what the mentality is of a guy like Scandrick, who's been in the league for 10 years, former Pro Bowler, has obviously earned his right and has a reputation of being a solid defensive back. What is it like coming back and having to earn a roster spot, playing in the second half of a preseason game? How humbling is that? Or are you still in that competitive veteran mode? You know what? It's football, and I want to be out there anytime I can be out there. It's kind of just a different psyche for some of these players. And like we were kind of talking about off camera, players are coming here to win. I mean, players aren't coming here to pad their stats and make a Pro Bowl and run for 1,000 yards. Guys are coming here to rally together to win a Super Bowl. And that's kind of the roster, and that's the bottom of the roster of the guys competing for those last couple spots.
Anything else before we put a bow on this thing?
I'm trying to think from the game-wise. I thought Sudfeld looked nice running the offense in the first half. Look comfortable in pocket, good on the move. The beautiful touch pass on the deep ball to Mark and Michelle for the score. I mean, that was like the big play highlight there. But
a couple big blocks in the offensive line on that play. By the way, keep an eye out for that.
Look at that.
Keep an eye out for that.
Well, the one thing I was going to highlight and kind of preview the article is I love when the second and third units come in and they just look exactly like the first unit.
Right.
And they ran some of the classic Eagles run schemes, and the second and third unit guys looked kind of like Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks. So another couple plays we'll highlight there of some of the young players.
Look at that. Couple teases for Monday, so you can keep an eye out for that.
Teasing all over the place.
Eagle Eye in the Sky article to come for Monday. All right, I think that'll do it. Another show in the books here on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, fueled by Gatorade. Again, the number one way to support the show. Go, give us a rating, leave us a comment, leave us a question. We'll answer it here. We have a handful more of these daily training camp practice recaps. As long as the media is out of practice for the full session, we'll be here to break it all down. Until then, we will see you tomorrow right here on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, fueled by Gatorade.